In the spirit of Kujichagulia, self-determination, the Lincoln Park Sustainable Living Community Podcast is the business and art of creative placemaking in the historic Lincoln Park community in the City of Newark, New Jersey. This podcast was created by Lincoln Park Coast Cultural District, nonprofit, an organization founded and led by Black, Indigenous people of color since inception. You are now listening to the Lincoln Park Sustainable Living Community Podcast, hosted by Executive Director Anthony Smith, presented by Verizon, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, United Airlines, Valley National Bank, Provident Bank, and with the grant support from the City of Newark Creative Catalyst Fund.
Welcome to the Lincoln Park Sustainable Living Community Podcast, and I am your host, Anthony Smith, the Executive Director of Lincoln Park Coast Cultural District, based in the great city of Newark, New Jersey. This is the last episode of our first history-making season of Lincoln Park's first podcast. We made it together. Thank you all for listening, sharing the links, emails, and texts of your support. If you had to ask me in January 2020 if I thought I'd be hosting a podcast, my answer might be one day, or I don't have time right now to do that. But then the world changed and slowed down. Things that seemed important shed away, and what's really necessary came into clearer focus. This podcast was a platform for Lincoln Park Coast Cultural District to tell its story. While we all love dancing in the park at the festival, there would be no festival without the foresight of the municipal stakeholders that attended the first charrette. Our founding board and executive director to start a nonprofit in an area of downtown Newark that needed physical and an emotional lift. But what the 2020 reckoning or the murder of George Floyd reminded us was that LPCCD, Lincoln Park Coast Cultural District, was founded in the spirit of community activism. This podcast filled a void by creating space for what was lacking, diverse voices and creative placemaking in the podcast universe. That's one way we're fulfilling our original mission and vision. Today, my guests are not only experts, they are not only respected in the community of Newark, they are well-versed in all things current events, news, and popular culture, and a ton of fun. This will be our first time having two guests for a roundtable conversation, and I could not be more pleased. Our topic today, what the heck happened? The year in review. Note that due to COVID, we remained in our remote locations for the discussion and were socially distant. I hope you find my conversation with today's guests about the unique perspectives interesting and informative. And now, today's roundtable's guest. Khalil A.C. Nasserdeen is a demonstrated strategic planner with cultivation and relationship management skills, an exceptional team leader, adept at collaboration. Khalil has proven expertise leveraging his network of public government officials, community leaders, and organizations at all levels. His daily work is driven by community-centric development. Khalil served for 4 years as Chief of Staff for Newark Councilwoman Cheneyfield Jenkins. Prior to his work in Newark government, Khalil held the role as Special Projects Director and later Director of Community Partnerships at Babyland Family Services. In 2019, Khalil launched the Ridgeland Group LLC, where he serves as Chief Strategy Officer. TRG is a company of innovation that provides clients strategic message development, community engagement, diversity and inclusion training, and public resource capacity. Formed to offer specialized services for nonprofit entities and not-for-profit entities or organizations, TRG is well-informed and positioned to respond rapidly to a broad range of project needs in organizations, community, and economic development. The Ridgeland Group is devoted to finding the necessary synergy, strategic points of leverage, and valuable contributions or collaborations, collaborations to make each client's project successful. My second guest, Alexandra Hill, is an award-winning afternoon anchor and news reporter at WBGO 88.3 FM, the popular jazz radio station founded right here in Newark, New Jersey. Alex begun her work with WBGO in June of 2012 in the news department. A graduate of the Rutgers Newark journalism program, Alexandra was also a student of WBGO news director Doug Doyle. Alexandra has since become the lead general assignment reporter, afternoon news anchor, and producer of the award-winning live call-in show Newark Today. Since working for WBGO, Alexandra has covered politics in and around Newark, including the 2014 mayoral campaign of Mayor Ras Baraka, as well as the Senate campaigns of former Newark Mayor and now U.S. Senator Cory Booker in both 2013 and 2014. Alexandra also covers as a host of human interest stories and has been recognized by New York Association of Black Journalists for her piece entitled Sheltering Newark's Homeless. Other awards include the 2013 Public Radio National Directors Incorporated Award for Best Ongoing Team Coverage of Breaking News, the death of Senator Frank Lautenberg, as well as recognition by the New Jersey Chapter of Society of Professional Journalists for her ongoing coverage of the Newark Public School District. Prior to her time at WBGO, Alexandra lived in Los Angeles for 5 years, where she worked in public relations. Let's give both of my guests a big round of applause. Podcast. Let's give it a round of applause.
Woo. Perfect way to start the year, Anthony. Happy to
Absolutely.
be here.
We're two of my favorite people.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Look, the feeling's mutual.
Yeah, absolutely. Our theme today is what the heck happened? What the heck happened? I mean, 2020 was 1 year, and we even came into this year with a bang also. But what the heck happened? What a year, guys. Let's start from the beginning. We started the year off with Kobe Bryant. In January, we started off the year in January, Kobe Bryant having this unexpected accident that really just tore us all apart. What was your feeling around that time? We just was coming into New Year. We're like, okay, 2020, we're here. Perfect vision. And then you hear this news about Kobe.
So I'll go first with that one. So Kobe was my favorite athlete. We actually had the same birthday. So I always felt like I understood when people call Kobe arrogant. I was always like, you know what though? I get Kobe, right? I understand. Y'all don't get it. And so I remember where I was and how I felt, and I was like, it can't be true. Like someone's lying. And the next thing you know, we knew it was true. And I think that just his impact on everyone, on the people in his life, but also I think that Kobe's the perfect example of something crazy happens in your life. It could ruin you, but you flip it around, right? And you become a new person, right? You take a new path, because we all know what happened. But post that, he couldn't have been a better husband, father, humanitarian. He still wasn't passing the ball to no damn body, but he was a great guy afterwards.
Yeah. How about you, Alex? What you think? What was your feeling about that?
For me, the thing that, of course, I remember Kobe as being, I remember when he went into the NBA, because he was in the same high school class that I was, which was, I believe, the class of 97. If it wasn't 97, it was 96. It was very close. And I spent one summer at UCLA, where I was taking these, college courses. It was the summer right before my senior year of high school. And during that program at UCLA, we got to stay on the campus, take college level courses. It was great. And they took us to a taping. One of the extracurricular activities they did with us is they took us to a taping of Moesha. and he was on the set because that's when he was dating Brandy, right? And he was on the set, and we were in the crowd. All the kids from our college program were in the crowd. That was one of the things they did with us as part of the program, which was dope. And they were throwing T-shirts, and there's a comedian that comes out and warms the crowd. I don't know if you've ever been to a show taping to warm up the crowd. And I caught one of the T-shirts that the comedian was throwing into the audience. And Kobe came out onto the set and he signed my shirt. Him and Brandy.
Oh.
Yes. And unfortunately, over the years, I have no idea where the hell that shirt is. But when I asked somebody if it was going to be worth money, they told me no, because it was personalized. They put 2 Alex. They asked me what my name was. I said, Alex.
Okay.
They put 2 Alex. But anyway, it didn't matter because the very next year, he went into the NBA. And I just having that moment with him is special. And but the thing that hurts probably for me the most about his death is his daughter that was right next to him, and what his wife has had to endure. I'm sure as a mother and as a woman, I started following her on social media, of course, after his death, and I just want to know that she's okay for some reason.
Right.
No, I agree with you. I mean, for me, first of all, I was really, I didn't believe that it really happened. I couldn't believe that happened like that. And despite all his journey, right?
Yeah.
All I saw was the love he had for his family and his daughter.
Pure.
And that, especially as a Black man, that really broke me up, because he typically we say that, or not typically, but a lot of times they talk about single family households and all that. He was there standing in the gap, being there for his daughter and making sure that she was able to reach all her dreams and aspirations. And that was really just hurtful to see that. But on the other side, it happened, but they were together. Yeah. It's a weird kind of oxymoron in seeing how that all happened. I was in the era of Magic Johnson and, the Knicks and all those folks. But, I think the lesson for me through it all, through the tragedy, was about family. Family is very important, no matter what.
Right.
We have our ebbs and flows in our relationships, but your family is very important. And, the investment, Alex, I see how you invest in your daughter. The investment that we have in our children or the youth will have a direct impact on who they will become when they get older. So, and he was doing that.
Yeah. I think family is important. I love that you said that, Anthony. Family is important. And what I've come to know for sure is that, not just biological family, but chosen family. For me, sometimes we can have strained relationships with biological family, right? The same people with the same blood as you. And you can kind of, again, go through the ebbs and flows that you do with all relationships. But for me, I value my chosen family, those folks who I'm some part of you is necessary in my life, right? And some part of me is necessary in your life. And, I say chosen family, but for me, there is no difference, right? Who I call my big sis or my big bro, and really mean it, not just in a superficial, hey sis, no, but really no, you're my emergency contact, right? Something happens to me, you know what I mean? I have a people in my life,
That's the emergency contact card.
Oh yeah, let me say something to Alex. Look, my best friend Tracy, right? Everybody knows I love Tracy. Yeah. She's my sister. Yeah. She's my emergency contact. She's on my life insurance, right? So she's really she's my family for real.
But wait a minute, Khalil. On my phone, I have ICE in case of emergency.
In case of emergency, okay, go ahead and click. Listen, I have, we all got the iPhones, right? So there's that first little section. I have 5 numbers there. These are the people who I know. If I killed somebody, call them. If someone killed me, call them, right? If I need to be bailed out of,
if I get locked out, call them.
Right? Let me tell you something. It's 5 people, right? And if I call their names, the two of you absolutely know them as my people. It's oh, okay, that's Chris. It's Malik, right? It's Terry. Yep. Mm-hmm.
But staying in the same vein of sports, the Super Bowl was a big topic during the top of the year. Also,
did that happen?
No. Well.
Oh, it did. Jennifer Lopez performed at halftime, right?
Yeah, but it was around Colin Kaepernick, and
Taylor and Shakira. did the halftime show, right?
Yeah, but they didn't, they never acknowledged, or he's never, even today, like they had opportunity to do it, but no one has really given him his just due or even apologized to him, because he was standing in the gap around police brutality and things that was happening 4 years ago. Early on. And, it's just, it's interesting how sports and both two iconic sports figures really was leading the debate about what was happening around Black culture, our culture, and everything around that.
Are we waiting for someone to acknowledge Colin though? I mean, like, I feel like, on one hand, I understand it, right? And like Colin, like you said, like he was out front early before everyone got to Twitter talking about like Black Lives Matter, right? And talking about like criminal justice and social justice, right? Like Colin, he took a stand, right? So part of me feels like he took a stand and there were consequences for that stand, right? Much like hundreds of unsung people took stands, right, in the 60s, right? For us, for Black folks, right? Names that we'll never call, names that we'll never even know, right? They took stands and they were in many cases, right, punished for it, right? They suffered consequences because of it. Are we looking for apologies for those folks? Like, does that make sense? Like, I don't want to mean to seem like insensitive to like Colin, but it's kind of like, yo, my man, like we appreciate you for taking the stand, but you then gotta live with whatever comes with mainstream America or the rest of America's opinions of you or consequences for whatever stand you took.
And my take on it is, I mean, Colin Kaepernick should all praise due to him. He has used his spotlight, his platform in an incredible way, and it started the conversation going, and all of that is great. But in real life, I think he's actually more successful now because of it than he would be in the NFL. He's gotten deals with Nike. His face is on T-shirts. I mean, he's leading. He's a figurehead in the movement against police brutality and racism within these police departments that function across the country. He's doing way more than he would ever have accomplished. And yeah, he might have got a Super Bowl ring, but compared to what he's doing now, that's nothing.
I agree, Alex. It's kind of like if we said, right, it's kind of like if we said, like, okay, Stacey Abrams lost the governor election, but then aren't we grateful that she did, right? Because the impact was so much greater not being governor of Georgia. I think that Colin's impact is crazy now compared to just him throwing football every Sunday.
Yeah, that's a great point. But the great thing, he was able to pivot.
Yes.
And understood his power that he had with the experience that happened.
I mean, doesn't he have a deal with Rock Nation?
He does.
I mean, like, come on.
Pivot should have been the word of 2020, honestly. Right? For all of us, right? Like, for all of us. Okay. Listen, for everyone, we all had to pivot in 2020.
Yeah, so that goes back. I was just thinking that should multi-million-dollar organizations that make big money from Black bodies support athletes that take a stand, like NASCAR, NFL? Should they still be supporting them?
So NASCAR is not for us. Right? No. Now, I just want to, okay.
I know nothing about NASCAR.
Let me tell you. Okay. The most I know about I know a few drivers from NASCAR. I know I bought my nephew's NASCAR cars, but I don't know a thing about NASCAR. Now, the NFL, where 90% of the people on the field look like me, absolutely, Anthony. Absolutely, right? Like, I don't even understand how we still go out into these fields and play for folks who do not value our bodies, right? Like, in a literal sense, and then when I say our bodies, like what we stand for outside of a football mound, right? But NASCAR ain't for us, so I don't really care.
The only reason I brought up NASCAR is because, the Black driver who found...
Oh, yeah, Bubba. What's his name?
Buffalo. Bubba.
Listen, now, I don't want the brother to walk into his garage and see a noose, right? Because I'm a Black man in America, and I just feel like a noose symbolizes the same thing for all of us, whether you drive a NASCAR or you live in Newark, New Jersey, right? A noose is a noose is a noose. And so I'm not with that, but Bubba, you might be on your own, beloved, because I can't bring no buses to the NASCAR race to protest nothing.
I can't believe the only black driver in all of NASCAR got the nerve to have the name Bubba.
Bubba, okay, of all the names, of all the names, Alex.
But you're right, Khalil, in reference to the NFL or the basketball league, you know, we have mostly black folks, black guys playing those, and you know, they should have more respect for us in that space. Just want to pivot. Since you said this was a pivot, let's pivot. Yeah, you know, Trump proposed in 2021, his budget for February 2021, that he was going to disseminate federal dollars or just cut the arts. You know, he went and cut arts, cutting public radio, cutting NEA, public radio, library services, and museums. These cuts really will change the landscape for arts, culture, public radio, Alex, as you know. And, you know, for me, what would life be without the arts and having these vehicles to have a voice and self-expression? You know, what would that be like? And for you, Alex, what are your thoughts about that budget cut that he was trying to impose?
I mean, I'm completely against it because he's coming from my pocket. And my check, you know, I work for public radio. And I mean, I think that it's one of his worst policies. I mean, as far as it goes towards, yeah, there's worse things that he's done, but cutting public funding for arts is incredibly damaging to society, to the fabric of American society, that public spaces and public places and arts and publicly accessible information news, like these are all organizations that are responsible for carrying that that torch, if you will, of arts and entertainment and news and information. I mean, think about it, like NJPAC in the Newark Public Library, all those places that we value so much to carry on the legacy of arts, which is incredibly important to the education of people in general, to society in general. To not have an arts, to eliminate the National Endowment for the Arts. I mean, what is the purpose of that besides shifting a minute $7 million or $8 million or whatever it is from places and spaces that are needed for our culture to survive?
Now, Alex, you're talking, and that's a very good point, and you're talking about these large, even larger institutions. Can you imagine how it impacts a place like Lincoln Park Coast Cultural District?
Absolutely.
You know that.
Absolutely.
You know at that. So if the larger ones are affected, it trickles back down right to our pockets, that we can't even do the work that we do in the community because of the economic impact that this will have on us.
I think that Trump's decision or Trump's recommendation to make those cuts, right, it really just speaks to his privilege, right? We can talk about like this color of his skin and that kind of privilege later if you want, but really, like, when I say privilege, I really mean about like dollars and cents kind of privilege, right? He's never known public anything, right? He's never had to think about a public library, right, or a public golf course or the public arts, because he's always been privileged with money, right? So he don't give a doggone nothing about the idea that some kids somewhere in America, right, let's take out inner cities, take out urban, just a kid somewhere in America may have to go to a library, right, to read the books they need to read, because he, in the houses that he's lived in, the homes he's lived in, has always had an extensive library. Now, he may not open up a book in those libraries, right, but they were available there, right? He's not worried about the arts because he's always had the money to support the arts in whatever way that may be, superficial or not, right? So he's not thinking about, he's a guy who, if I give this money for the arts, I'm giving it to be splashy, right? And so that everyone will know I gave the American Ballet, right, some money, right? Or I gave the Metropolitan Museum of Art money. He's not thinking about museums in Yotown, America, because his privilege says he doesn't need to.
Yeah, you know, Khalil, that segues really into a question I have for you. How do you, as a consultant, advocate to these corporations for stepping up and stepping in the gap for these fundings that don't exist or it's been, just demolished, what have you been doing? Because I know you've been doing some great work around that space.
So I'll say that it is rough to have conversations with folks who don't know what's needed about what's needed, right? Because if any corporation or organization worth their salt, right, has people on staff who they feel have their finger on the pulse of neighborhoods, right, on their finger on the pulse of communities, when in fact everyone on this conversation know that most times those folks don't know a thing about a thing, right? They were the guy who knew something in 1995, right? They're still wearing that same jacket from 1995 and still using the same practices. So what I've had to do, especially during this pandemic and pivoting, and Anthony, like Lincoln Park, like inviting you into spaces where, okay, here's my client. They have an issue, right? They brought my Black face here. I'm going to bring to this conversation authenticity, right? And unapologetically who I am, right? So I don't get in these spaces with folks who don't look like me, or who do look like me, but just don't know nothing about me, and dumb it down. I don't get in those spaces and not say, hey, my people need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Can you do it, right? Mm-hmm. Because, I don't know how it goes. What is it? You have not because you ask not, or whatever that frame terminology is. So when I go into those spaces, I'm really saying to them, like, I've seen you before in the community. You pick this person, cool. You could pick this person right here and get more impact, right? Because everyone wants to talk about impact now when they talk about community development and when they talk about community engagement. It's like, well, we want to have strong impact. All right, that's fine. The way to do that is to give the money to the people who are actually touching the people, right?
But also, Khalil, in funding and supporting those who have the boots to the ground, it's not only just, thinking it's going to happen instantaneously. There has to be some patient capital. Sure. Because you have to be able to invest in these organizations, or BIPOC leaders, Black leaders, that are supporting these organizations. And it has to be a multi-year support, and what happens is a lot of times they don't even, I'm saying they just in general, because they don't have the boots to the ground, you don't understand what it takes to do the day-to-day work,
I was raised, I come from nonprofit. I was raised in a nonprofit family, right? I worked in nonprofit. I'm like at different levels, where the kind of nonprofit where things are great, right? And it's all good. And like, we're killing the game, right? And our ED, has money and all that other good stuff, right? And we're really knocking out the bar. And I work for a nonprofit, community-based nonprofit, where it's like, do we have money for copy paper, right? Okay. Am I going to be able to, are we making payroll this week, right? And so I feel like, thank the good Lord that I'm out of that space in my life. However, y'all know I was in those spaces before.
Yeah.
And so if you have never intimately known how hard it is to be at nonprofits that don't have endowments, right? At nonprofits that don't have like just money sitting in a bank waiting to be used for something, then you may not know what the struggle looks like, right? Okay, yes, you gave us this grant, right? We want the money for sure, but we got to build this program, and it's only 2 of us in this office. There should be 6, right? And so give us a little grace, right? Give us some space, right, to figure out how to do what we know we can do, because we have the mental capacity for it, right? We have the spiritual capacity, because if you had a nonprofit, you obviously care about somebody because you ain't making no money, right? But we may not have like the actual like hands to the plow capacity. So when you are at a corporation, you got to give them that grace, but only you get that grace if you have somebody, not to say like me, but like somebody in the middle who can say, hold up, y'all. I know what you want to have done on Wednesday. You're going to need 2 more Wednesdays in this month before you get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's also why organizations like, public radio, like us at WBGO, we have to get on the airwaves whenever possible and fundraise for our own money. I mean, that's like really also part of it. You got to beg for some money every now and then, you gotta get up on that radio and convince them to come up out their pockets and become a sustaining member, because those are the ways in which we're forced to fill those gaps.
Yeah, absolutely.
We gotta fundraise. So it's like we can't just always sit back and wait for checks to be cut and grants to be written. We have to get out there and get it.
Yeah, you definitely have to have you have to be a charismatic
Have
leader or a person. Your hustle got to be on. You know, I want to chat with you guys about the dual pandemic. There were two pandemics that happened for me. One was COVID, the other one was George Floyd. So we're going to start with COVID. You know, we went past the top of the year with happening with Colin and also Kobe. But, you know, then COVID happened. And it was interesting because in the top of the year, I traveled. And as soon as I got home, I went to Brazil for Carnival. And as soon as I got home,
your whole life, huh?
The week later, everything was on lockdown. I was like, dang, I got home just in time, you know. But we heard about it happening in China.
Yes, we did.
But we knew it was happening, but I didn't think that it was going to hit the States like it hit the States. You know, it dominated the headlines. It eclipsed what happened with Kobe Bryant. I think people even forgot that Kobe Bryant happened. And
we forgot it happened in the same year, Tony, right? Like so much happened in 2020 that you're like, wait a minute, Kobe died in 2020 and it was a pandemic?
Yeah. It seems like so long ago.
Yeah, but for me, when it happened so fast. And living here in the city of Newark, New Jersey, and I guess it was Connecticut, we got hit real hard. It came right to the shorelines, and it impacted me as an organization. I didn't know how we were going to survive. I was like, what is going to happen now? And then all these people were dying around me quickly, you know, and so it was just a really traumatic experience. And actually I had to really reset and think about the hustle. It came on then, Alex. You really had to get the hustle on because you had to realize what was available, how do you react to it to keep your doors open, but also to keep your mission and vision alive in that space.
Pivot,
yeah.
Right?
Pivot, yeah.
So I think from it's funny, right as, they were saying socially distance, right? Like, like on Instagram, I had I put like a fly picture up and put like socially distancing. We thought it was cute, right? we thought it was gonna be 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Like, all right, y'all, stay away from me a little bit. Give me 6 feet.
If y'all don't follow Khalil on Instagram, you need to do so and get your life.
Listen, right?
As the talented Mr. Nass.
So here I go. I'm like socially distancing. I wasn't socially distancing after that picture. I had walked outside my friend's house. There was a whole party raging inside there. And I was like, but here we go, right? Uh-huh. And literally the week before, it was like, oh, no, for real, stay home. Like, don't leave the house. I was literally at a party, Alex. Remember we were at Kenny's party, having the time of our lives. It was kind of like a movie, right? It's like, in the movie when like, everybody's living the best life ever, and then like all hell breaks loose, and you're like, what happened to that party that was happening? Like we were in any event. What I think the pandemic did though was also, and having to stay home, right, is that it was dual. On one hand, it was like it forced all of us to sit down, right? To sit down and to figure some things out, right? Because life depended on it. Like literally your health depended on it, but also like your financial health, right? Or your career depended on it. So we all had to sit down and reevaluate and pivot. But also, for me, this is just my takeaway from 2020 and the pandemic, is that I was able to cut a lot of BS out of my life, right? So yeah, it was sad to see people dying and getting sick and being like super sick. I know people who have died of COVID, but it was also, I had a hell of a year, 2019, right? And like the end of it was really bad. So 2020 was like, oh, it was almost like God was like, no. You thought you were good. You really weren't, right? Now sit down and figure some things out. Stay away from them people who you were around, who you were like shucking and jiving and patting their backs and kissing cheeks, right? And trying to figure out how to get fly to go to the next event, because you got to be seen, right? You got to see the same 10 people. I'm just making it up.
Oh my God.
Right? Okay, 70 times.
Get out of my head. Get out of my head.
Right. So it was like, well, you know what happened? I freed myself of a lot of like fluff. Now I gained that fluff in my stomach because I just kept eating during COVID. However, right?
I think we all did.
Listen, okay. However, none of us, you made conscious decisions about who you would give your energy to in 2020 because the pandemic said you couldn't be around everyone.
Absolutely. Alex, what do you want to chime in on that?
Absolutely. I mean, I completely and totally agree. Because Khalil and I lived similar lifestyles. I mean, mine is nowhere near as fun as
yes, it is, girl. Yes, it is.
But he's absolutely right. We were all, worried about this and that. We were going to galas left and right. I mean, all kinds of events, socialize and network. And that's what we used to tell ourselves. Oh, I got to go because if I don't go, then I'm not going to, they're going to talk about me or I'm not going to have the opportunity to take a picture with this one or rub elbows with that one. And that's really like, as superficial as it sounds, we didn't realize that back then, but now we do, thanks to COVID, because we were forced to really focus on what we want to put our energy into. And it's definitely a huge wake-up call for the entire world, for us to get our priorities straight and focus on things that are going to make the biggest difference in this world, in this community, wherever we are, in this family, wherever you are, what's going to make the biggest impact, what's going to make you happiest. Who are the people that are going to make you happiest? And that's absolutely priceless.
That's both of you said is so awesome. I started off talking about my pocket and my career and how, because being an executive director, I had to worry about other people too, right? Sure. But then by me being at home, I got a clarity of purpose.
Yes.
So it became very clear to me what my path and my goal was going to be and who was going to be a part of that experience. Because we're not having forced experiences and being able to choose it's such a refreshing experience. I am such a different person now and coming through 2020. And I had time to stop. I was moving too fast.
Yeah.
I was moving too fast. But when I stopped and was able to reassess, I forgot what my house looked like.
Listen,
you know what I'm saying? I started doing work in my house, just all the different things about this is what I work for. I got a backyard.
Are you enjoying it? Yes. Are you enjoying the fruits of your labor?
Yeah.
What happens is
the other thing. Yes, that's the other piece of it. Absolutely.
We say, hey, get this money, right? Get the success, right? And then buy these things to show your success, right? So you buy your fancy Adidas, right? Or you buy the car, or you buy the house, right? You have the living space. But it's like for many of us, we weren't seeing the insides of these spaces, right?
Right.
And then there's a whole group of people, just since you said it, Tony, about fixing things up. That's why Home Depot and Lowe's is packed every weekend. Because some folks realize, you know what, my house is really ugly, right? And if I gotta spend time in here day in and day out,
just ugly. It ain't about them enjoying their space no more.
It's like, listen, that hole in that ceiling been there for about 2 years, okay? Or it's yo, you know what? This basement has not been finished, but me and you can't be in the same space for no more. Right, so I'm gonna go down into the basement. So I'm gonna finish this basement, and it's gonna be my man cave, my she cave, whatever it's gonna be. You can't come in here no more because I was seeing you. Right now. That's why I said it, Alex. I'm like Alex is in her basement right now. People realized that their homes weren't really serving them appropriately. Yeah. Right, their homes weren't necessarily safe havens, and to be serious for a second. It also highlighted for people. That's why some people get divorced, right? Because they're like, I don't like you, right? But I was on limited time with you. I saw you in the morning, in the evening. I had this whole other life for 10 hours out of a day that you know nothing about, right? And you had your whole life, and we would come back and be good. But when I think about it, I don't know you, and I don't like you, right? And I don't want to see you every day. So you know what? You go about your way. I go about my way. Like people like, yo, listen, I don't got time to be with nobody who don't want to be with me, right? I don't got time to be in any space looking at any walls that are making me feel claustrophobic or making me feel like it's not my happy place. So it's funny because as much as Alex and I are out in the world a lot, and Alex, you still are out in the world more than me. When the pandemic hit, people would be like, "Oh, Khalil, I know this is going to be hard for you because you're always out in these streets." And I was like, It's not though. You know why? Because like I enjoy my own company, right? I like me, right? I like where I live, right? I don't come home and go when I was here at least. Now I really love it. But like when I go home, I'm not like, oh God, back to this place, right? Oh God. So I'm like, no, y'all who think that you love your lives already are gonna be the ones who are gonna be most impacted by this pandemic and having to be home. And that's what happened.
But you know, you staying right in that vein about being sheltered in place, right? So now we all were paying attention. We all were at home. And then the killing of George Floyd happened. Like, you know, the mental, the emotional, just that spiritual toll that it took on us, because not that this wasn't happening before.
For sure.
But we all were watching, you know, and like, what did and when that happened, what did that make you feel like? You know, like, first of all, we're already going through this whole pandemic around COVID. And now you're looking at this social justice unrest happening and how people are looking at us as Black folks, you know, and how we're being treated. And, you know, we talked about Colin Kaepernick early on, but going back to this police brutality, you know, it was just such a devastating moment in time. So, Alex.
So for me, I mean, it was obviously devastating to sit there and watch that officer who kept his knee on his neck for about 9.5 minutes, I believe it was, and watching the life literally leave his body was absolutely the hardest part of that. And what it did was people were so angry by it that they were willing to leave their homes. But you know, they're willing to say to heck with COVID, and I'm willing to put there was crowds, hundreds of thousands of people took to the streets in every major city in this country.
And they were willing to risk it.
They said, damn the pandemic, this is the pandemic. Like you said before, this is one of the things. And what it really did too was it also, unfortunately, it also lit a fire under the white supremacists that were already bubbling at the surface.
Yes.
It lit a fire under those people, you know, to come out and defend these officers and to defend the young man that shot that protester in Kenosha, Wisconsin. It brought all those people to the surface, which is one of the ugliest and most painful things about these brutal killings, because the white supremacy in this country was, back then, the FBI had already named white supremacy as the biggest threat to Homeland Security, which is happening right here in the country. And it exploded on social media after this, unfortunately. And it was like dying all over again and watching someone else die all over again at the hands of these white supremacists, which is, that's what they are. And our unfortunate to say this, but our police, our local police organizations across the country are infested through historically with white supremacists. They become officers, their kids become officers. It gets handed down from generation to generation. This is why we ended up where we are now with what happened at the Capitol last week. I know we'll get into it eventually.
Yes, we are.
You know?
Yeah.
So for me, when George called for his mama, right? I called for my mama, right? So there's something about calling for your mother, knowing your mother is deceased, right? Like, my mother is deceased. If tomorrow something crazy was happening to me, I would call for my mother, knowing that she couldn't physically get to me, but praying that she would intercede for me in some way, right? So when I heard him call for his mother, like, I called for mine, right? It was the idea, you know, Alex said that, like, you know, the summer also woke up the white supremacists, but woke up many of us, right? I was one of them, because I'm not a protesting kind of guy, right? Like, I'm not normally out nowhere shouting Ungawa Black Power. I'm not out there, you know, chanting no justice, no peace. Right? That's not really my steez. Tradition.
We were all out there this summer, though.
Yeah.
Alex, I promise you, it was the idea that, like, I've been a Black man for 36 years, right? And I've always been acutely aware of my Blackness. But it's the idea that nah, bro, you're not going to just like kill us like that. So yeah, I'm going to leave my house. I'm going to be taking a knee in front of City Hall in Newark, New Jersey. I'm going to be walking down Broad Street and walking up Market Street, like, because to not do that said that I was okay with where the world was, and I'm just not okay with that, right? It's like I was reminded of all those things that, you know, I put on Facebook that when I was like an undergrad, you know, you come home to your parents' house, and my mother always say, I can't rest until all my kids are in the house safely, right? And I would challenge it because I was like, Ma, come on, just go to sleep. Like, it's all good, right? But now I understood what my mother's fear was that I never saw, right? Because I always thought, like, you know, yeah, I'm Black, right? And I'm big in Black. However, I'm from a good family, right? A nice Muslim boy, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not like, I speak well, right? I'm not confrontational. I'm not doing anything illegal, right? I'm safe until it became clear that you're not safe, right? Yeah. It doesn't matter where you're from. Like, yeah, okay, something happened to Khalil tomorrow. Y'all gonna all be outside with t-shirts on, right? Protesting in my honor. However, the damage is now done, right? Yeah. So there is no right path to walk, right? In Islam, we say Israt al-Mustaqim, right? Like the straight and narrow path. But in America, there is no straight and narrow path to walk that won't get you killed by somebody who is killing you because of the color of your skin, right? And so me, Black man, was like, no, like, I'm going out into the streets, right? And I'm going to protest, and all of my posts are going to be hella Black, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, I posted, I'm pro-Black, and I'm not apologizing for anything, right? And pro-Black doesn't mean anti-anyone. It just means that I value my skin, I value my people, I value our contributions, and I'm not going to let anyone undervalue, right, or not value those contributions and that skin tone and what we bring to the world.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the whole Black Lives Matter thing, I mean, you know, I can't remember what comedian it was that said, but it's like, damn, why is there so much controversy around just using the phrase Black Lives Matter? Yeah. Like, when you say it not just matters, it just matters. Yeah. That's it. We can't get like Black Lives Matter is controversial.
Right. Yeah.
And all we're saying is that it matters. We ain't saying that nothing else matters. We just want Black lives to matter. Like, why is that controversial? That speaks volumes about this country.
Yeah, it gives an opportunity that we could just speak our truths. Yeah. You know, just say it how it was. We could be authentic. And you're right, Alex. Why should that be a bad thing that our lives matter?
It's controversial. There's no controversy around Black Lives Matter, especially if anyone has any clue to the history of this country. If you have had any minor education, even if you didn't graduate high school, you have some indication by what you have been taught, be it all that it's not all, you know, that's a whole different conversation about what's taught educationally in this country. Yeah. But however, if you consider yourself to be a knowledgeable Black person on any level in this country, you know that is not a statement that should be anywhere near controversial.
Yeah, you know, I want to talk about the economic downturn that happened, but Alex, I'll be remiss but not saying you covered the peaceful marches that happened in Newark. Now we understand that there was times when we didn't have peaceful marches in Newark, but you covered that. What you know, just give us like a highlights of what that was for you and covering about the peaceful march and how we were able to get through that and still make a statement.
Absolutely. So I think, you know, our local leaders are part of are a good reason for that, especially because our mayor, his family comes from a lineage of civil rights activism and social justice. His father was very instrumental in what happened here in the 1960s when we had the riots here in Newark. That was also the same summer as there were the riots in Detroit in '67. Yeah. I mean, and the way that he has acknowledged that, and he's constantly doing, like, we produced a special program about the Newark riots of '67 on VGO, where we had him and Junius Williams. We even had Sheriff Fontana, who was an officer back then when it happened. We even had him on the show to reflect. I think Newark has, in a wonderful way, been able to embrace its past and learn from it and educate its people about how to make our voices heard without having to go back in history and start all over again and ruin what progress we have made. So, I mean, I think our leaders, our local leaders, and our mayor has been great in doing that. And he spoke about that on the steps of City Hall before he got down and took to the streets with the people of the city of Newark.
So Mayor Ras Baraka was part of the march.
He was part of the march. He
Yeah.
spoke at the march. And then him and Larry Ham spoke in front of the Lincoln statue by the courthouse.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, Larry Ham with People's Organization for Progress. Larry don't play. Larry
don't play.
But wait, Alex, I'm sorry, but just imagine, right? How can I, right, little black Khalil, right, who 36, say that I don't have energy to go out in the street and protest when somebody like Larry Ham has been doing it longer than I've been alive? Right?
Yeah.
And is undeterred. Like, he don't care if nobody's honking a horn for justice out there in the street.
Exactly.
Larry is going to keep saying, honk your horn for justice.
And you know what?
Larry, look, when I was little, I used to go to ballet classes downtown on Academy Street. That's when Garden State Ballet had their Newark school right there on Academy Street. And when we used to drive by him every Saturday morning, they'd be out there with the signs, people organizing. When I was a kid and my dad used to beep, beep, beep.
Yeah, you got to.
Yeah. And you know what, guys? You know what's really, what I love about Larry? Larry's an educated man.
No, yes, Princeton.
Princeton.
Oh,
I'm sorry. The leader that he is super. Like, you got to know Larry Ham's story, right? And I think that we know the story. But when you know Larry Ham's story, and like to hear him tell a story and him talk about like his mother saying to him, "Boy, just go get a job, okay? No, wait, you want to go do what now?" Right? Like all that stuff, right? Because what can happen sometimes, and this is, I've been guilty of this. I think many of us have been guilty before, right? Really quickly, when I was a kid, I didn't like Al Sharpton, right? I didn't like Al Sharpton. I didn't like the tracksuits or the gold chains or the perm.
Me
right?
neither.
Okay, but my father was an avid WLIB listener, right? Talk radio, right? Every day when he picked me up from school and we driving home, he was listening to WLIB, right? And of course, Sharpton would be on there, right? And I'm like, I don't like Al Sharpton. My father's like, you don't understand Al Sharpton, right? And I was like, well, he don't live like us, right? But it was because sometimes we will take the theatrics of our Black leaders, right? And we will then decide that what they're saying lacks merit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like it took me time, and really Sharpton started wearing Brioni suits. So then it was kind of like, well, okay, I got it now. But I said to say that, like, listen, his message was the same. He was saying the same thing in the tracksuit as he was saying in the Brioni suit, but I visually believed it more in the Brioni suit. So sometimes with Larry will look a little disheveled, or he'll be out there, and sometimes his delivery will say to you, you know, this guy ain't right. But then when you speak to him one-on-one, I'm like, hey, Mr. Ham, like, you know, all praises due, Mr. Ham, right? Like, yo, I respect you, sir. You are my elder. Yeah. You've been doing this longer than I've been breathing. Bro, if you can still stand out there and ask for me to honk my horn for justice, I'm going to not only honk my horn for justice, okay, but I am going to come out there and hold a sign. And then what happened is that fire about George and Brianna and Philando, right, and Ahmaud became fire in cities around the country about cases that were specific to those places. So Alex and I went outside, right, for Ashley Moore here in the city of Newark. Ashley Moore, who was a trans woman, right, who was murdered outside in daylight, right, outside the Y. She was murdered, and the cops did nothing for months, right, for months. And then suddenly, like, I heard about it from my friend who lives in Philly, who heard about it from her friend in California, like, yo, why y'all talking about this? I was like, I never heard about Ashley Moore in my entire life. And suddenly, that same sense of we got to do better, and we got to hold people accountable. Here we were in Newark, in our city, holding sign in honor of Ashley Moore, saying, no. Somebody going to answer some questions about why this sister right here was murdered and what happened to her.
And Khalil and Alex, for me, when all of this stuff happened, it was a reset for me for Lincoln Park, because our organization was founded by the late Amiri Baraka. So we started as a social justice organization, and we mission drift a little. So I was like, oh, wait a minute, we have a voice, and we're in a position that we have to amplify our voice. This is why we created a podcast. You have to amplify our voice, and we have to have people like yourselves on here, because everyone doesn't know our story and don't know the story that's happening from the streets. So I'm excited. I'm actually really excited right now, because now I say exactly what I want to say.
Hello.
and I'll have to apologize. I'm 55 years old. I don't have to apologize.
Listen, Anthony, y'all sent out an email that had Imamu's face in the email. When I opened it up, I said, oh, well, they don't pivot it back to 96. Okay, they don't make a decision about who they gonna be, what they gonna say, right? Like funders be damned. Okay, whoever's opening this is uncomfortable, it should be, right?
Right.
And speaking about accountability, the 2020 election, right? Look, we got our first Black vice president as a woman. And there was a lot of backlash behind that, and I was like, I couldn't, not to say I couldn't understand, but it was just like against women, against Black people, because it felt like we were having this Obama experience again. And, what was your thoughts around it, Alex? I'm gonna go to Alex now, Khalil, being a powerful Black woman as she is.
Well, let me use my words wisely here. So, Kamala Harris can be a polarizing figure to some people in the Black community because of her history as Attorney General of the state of California and some of her policies around, the cases that she pursued and her policies around, throwing folks in jail for different offenses. And, she's a Howard sister, shout out to my on-air partner, Kiana Faircloth, Howard, HU, but.
Oh, God, yo.
I mean, I think it's wonderful for America because she checks off so many different boxes, right? She's a woman, she's Black, she's South Asian from India, she's so well educated and accomplished. So she checks off a lot of boxes. And I think it's incredible. I mean, despite what personally I may feel about her previous policies and her previous positions, I think that she is exactly what the country needs in this moment. Her and Joe Biden. And I mean, I always said, like, when I was voting, I wasn't voting for Joe. I mean, all kudos to Joe Biden. That's my man, Cadaver Joe, with the aviators on and the,
Not the aviators.
The way he talked with that no jack slack, the way he talked, always rhyming and stuff. Let me tell you how it is. I mean, Joe is great. He got a story for everything. He starts off every speech. But I mean, I think that Kamala, like I was voting for Kamala, honestly. And I think one of the things that's going to be very interesting about her vice presidency, especially now that we've won those 2 seats down in Georgia, is that she is going to have a tie-breaking vote in the U.S. Senate. I think that's probably the most power that any vice president has ever had, because in real life, a vice president is a mere figurehead. I mean, their existence is merely symbolic in many instances. But because of the position that she's been put in through the efforts of another amazing Black woman, Stacey Abrams, she's going to have some power. And what I love about this administration is, while it's not perfect by any stretch, they are putting people. There are firsts that are happening with this administration that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
The first Native American a woman in a position of power, in a cabinet position. The first openly gay in a cabinet position. I keep hearing every time the Biden-Harris administration announces new cabinet appointments, it's always a first in some way, shape, or form. And that is what these white supremacists in this country are so bothered by. But it's happening. And if we keep our eye on the prize and support them in whatever they need, this is going to be a whole new Democratic Party. And I'm excited about it.
You got me excited. Wait a minute. Khalil, you know that on January 20th, DC is going to be on lockdown, right?
It should be.
Yeah, but what was
your... Yeah, I had to cancel my reservation at the Marriott.
Khalil, can you give
never mind.
He said, never mind, yeah. Khalil, let's talk about Insurrection 2021.
Oh, we're here already.
All right. So
hold on, I gotta go. Let Khalil take this. Hold on.
How do you begin that? Okay, so you begin that by saying that Donald Trump is right. You begin there, right? You follow it up with saying that spineless, white, mediocre men, right, not only led to his being something in life, but also they stoked those flames, right? For 4 years, the Lindsey Grahams of the world, right? The Mitch McConnells, like mediocre white men who have occupied places of power, they stoked it, right? They allowed that stuff. Anthony, it's serious though, right?
Yeah.
Like they allowed it to happen, right? So I want to say that just as a note, right? So when people listen to this podcast, right, they won't think that I'm completely off the deep end. But like I said before, I'm pro-Black. However, I love white folk, right? Like I got white friends and like people in my life who mean a lot to me who don't look like me. However, white people are responsible for Donald Trump. White women are responsible for Donald Trump, right? Like they are responsible. So I don't want to hear from, your aunties or like, those Karens of the world talking about how they can't believe that we got to this place in the world, because guess what they did? They allowed it, right? They stoked that flame. And so we get to Wednesday, and for me, Wednesday was just about the audacity of whiteness, right? The audacity of whiteness says that you would leave wherever you lived and get on a Greyhound, a bus, a plane, an automobile, right? And take your rabid white to the nation's capital and then to Capitol Hill and scale a wall, right? And break a glass on a building and go in and say, we're gonna stop this because we don't like it, right? Like Black folks, I wish we had this much audacity, right? Like we only have this kind of audacity at the family reunion, right? You like get your auntie bring the bad potato salad and you like, ain't nobody eating that, auntie, okay? But Black folks, I wish we had the audacity of mediocre, angry white folks, right? To say that something didn't go my way, so I'm going to attempt to interrupt it all. And the worst part is the woeful ignorance, Tony, because they didn't even know why they were there. And it's like, y'all know no matter what you do on January 20th, Joe Biden gonna be the president, right? That's how this works, right? Or it's the folks you saw on television saying, we built this house, it's our house. I'm like, well, who
they built the house?
Build it? You want to tell them, or should I tell them that like folks who look like me built that whole damn town, right? The man who planned out DC was a Black man. Who gonna tell them? Okay, so it's like, yo, y'all really you have that much audacity, right? As my mother would say, you had the nerve, like the unmitigated gall, to believe that your one vote counted for more than my one vote. And that's the part right there that like, yo, I just can't forgive.
Yeah. Well, so Alex, what would that experience have been like if it was Black people?
Come on, man.
I mean, is this even a conversation? I mean,
Bloody Wednesday.
That's what
Bloody Wednesday.
that's what the audacity that Khalil is talking about also refers to, because it's like, we know for sure we'd be shot dead on arrival. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And one of the things that riot displayed is the extreme opposite ends of the universe that Black people and white people live with on a daily basis in this country. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's the exact, and now we're finding out the scariest part about all of this is that as much as we want to think that these are people that just showed up there, that didn't plan to do it, that just showed up there and got so riled up by the president that they decided to take the Capitol. This was a planned terrorist event. And that's the scariest part of all of this, because the FBI knows about it, knew about it. And now all of this information is coming out, and these people would have killed our members of Congress if they would have gotten in there, and if they would, that was their objective. Some of those people aren't just blindly following Donald Trump. Some of those people, that is those QAnon people, they are the ones that planned that. They believe that their ultimate ordained destiny is to get onto the Capitol floor and murder them, a member of Congress. That is their goal. It's appalling the way that the visuals that you see between the way that planned event was handled versus how they handle Black Lives Matter. I mean, the visuals are just breathtaking when it comes to, you can't, like, you know what I'm saying? If you ever had any doubt about racism in this country and the complete opposite worlds that exist when you are Black and when you are white in this country, I mean, if you can't look at that and see, nothing ever is going to open your eyes to that reality. And it's sad because the arrests that are now being made behind it are not enough. Like I said earlier in the show, they've been telling us, the FBI has known that that this was a threat. There were messages, they're uncovering thousands of messages on social media that this was planned. And I hope and pray that they are able to track it back to the Trump administration in some way, shape, or form. And I hope they bring down the gavel on their goddamn asses so fast. I mean, we only have a few more days. And one other thing that I want to add of the Trump administration anyway, but one of the things I wanted to add too was Joe Biden's remarks.
Yeah, he
had great remarks. This happened. No, but he still didn't recognize. He still did not. And that's the thing, that white people that are on the margins, that aren't the ones that are taking up arms and attacking the United States Capitol, the ones that live next door to us, that are gentrifying Newark and Brooklyn and places like that, those white people are the ones that need to acknowledge and recognize that this exists. Because without their recognition that racism is as bad as it is in this country, it's never going to change. They can sit up there and say, "Oh, we signed up to work for this organization." And I have a white co-worker that thinks that he personally flipped Georgia blue because he signed up to work for what's that sister's organization down there that helped flip the state blue with the votes.
Now, can I ask you a question, Alex? Did you tell him to go to hell? Did you tell him to go to hell? Did you tell him? He thinks he's personally responsible for flipping the state of Georgia blue. I'm like, do you realize how much blood has been shed in the streets for this day to happen? And you have the nerve, the unmitigated goal. I mean, these white people are off the chain. And unless it's really recognized, and see, what I was saying about Joe Biden is that he said this is, when he made his remarks, albeit we know he was trying to calm the situation down and calm folks down, but he didn't even say, he said, this is not the America that we, whatever is it, this is not America. This is America. It is America.
This is the saddest part. This is America at its core. Those people storming that Capitol, and you trying to tell me y'all didn't see this coming?
Yeah. Let me tell you something. So the thing that I find interesting is we have reverted right back to the 60s. So a few years ago, Reverend Al, I keep quoting Reverend Al, National Action Network, holla at me. Maybe I need to have a job over there. Okay, maybe. Okay, my father is somewhere in heaven right now, smiling that his son is quoting Reverend Al Sharpton. And this is my third time mentioning that man's name in this little. You know what, Dad, you know, Daddy. Okay, perfect, no problem. Yeah. So Reverend Al said a few years ago, and it always stuck with me. He said, here's how we have reverted. And Black folks should be both frightened and also thankful for this part, right? Reverend Al said that Jim Crow had become James Crow Esquire, right? That there was a sophistication that happened to, the Bull Connors, right, of the world, right? There was sophistication that happened to the George Wallaces of the world, but that we still knew that racism existed. I think that what Trump did was Trump helped America, right, revert back to Jim Crow from James Crow Esquire, right? So Black folks, I think, should be anxious about it because the folks who dislike you because of the color of your skin are much more bold than they would have been in an Obama America, right? Mm-hmm. They're much more bold than they would have been should Hillary Clinton have become president, right? They are much more bold, but we should be grateful because now it's not whispered, right? It's not like, oh, could this be interpreted as racist? No.
Right.
Now they're very clear. Oh, no. I don't like you. I don't like you because you're Black. I'm going to do this. In fact, not only do I not like you, I hate you, right? I don't know why I dislike you other than you are Black. So you say it's kind of both ways, right? Like, yo, be grateful, Black folks. Be grateful, America, right? So when they say this is not America, it is America. However, it's not America masking itself as anything other than what it's always been for Black folk in this country. Mm-hmm. Like your grandma, this is the America that she knew, right? Yeah,
exactly.
Right, exactly. Only we got iPhones, right? But like it's the same America, right? So when Gil Scott-Heron said the revolution will be televised, it will be televised, right? From your iPhone, I can say, look what you're doing to us, right?
Yeah.
That's the beauty. That's
so, we've first of all, I want to thank you both. I love my passionate friends. We have passionate conversations. And people don't realize
Thank you, Anthony. We appreciate that.
But listen, we talk this way when look, we've had these conversations in person. And so I really appreciate that. But, in thinking about the future, what are you hopeful for in 2021? What change do you think we need to seek, or did you think that needs to happen, or we should be seeking to bring about this change that we need?
Ladies first.
60 seconds. You got 60 seconds.
60 seconds each. Yeah. Okay. So, I believe 2021, what I most look forward to is this new administration. I'm passionate about politics. Like I said, this Democratic Party, I'm so excited to see what they're going to do. Because, at the end of the day, when you hit rock bottom, there's nowhere to go but up. Yeah. And while the other half of it, which is the racism that exists in this country, that's a reckoning. That's a situation. I'm not a cynical person. I'm not overly positive as well. Anyone that knows me, I'm somewhere right gray as hell when it comes to that. But the cynical side of me would say that unfortunately, it's not something that's going to go away anytime soon. And it's going to be interesting to see how it's addressed moving forward, because it's a scary situation. It's a scary place to be. And I think for 2021, while the pandemic has also opened a lot of our eyes, it's devastated people in ways that they might not ever be able to recover from. Yeah. And what we need to be grateful for is that we have the ability, those of us that are blessed to wake up every day, is to be the change that we seek in the world, which is, from my end personally, is using my voice and my platform to get out the news and information in a way that benefits the people that need it. And and it's truth. It's truth telling. And as a member of the media, we often catch a lot of flack for the way in which we address and report certain issues. And I try every day as a human being to not only shed light in places that other people won't look, but to also, use those stories that I find as inspiration to inspire somebody to keep going, because every day that we wake up with, and I think if 2020 taught us nothing else, it taught us that every day is a blessing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Khalil? Okay. So when people ask me how I'm doing now, I always say, I'm alive, I'm healthy, and I'm sane. Some days relatively sane, but most days just plain old sane. So what I hope to see for everyone, right? The people that I love, the people who I don't love, right? And don't even like, but for everyone is really peace, right? Peace with self, peace for self, peace in your bubble and in the people who you love, right? And I want everyone to be able to say that they are alive, healthy, and sane. The other day on Instagram, I posted that, we're not accepting apologies this year. We're only accepting change behavior, right? And so in all aspects of my life, I'm looking for that, right? Change behavior. I want to demonstrate change behavior for whatever my shortcomings are, but also the people in my life. So if that means that you're not showing up for people, change behavior is that you start showing up for them, right? If you're not speaking truth to power, as all the oldies say, right? Then change behavior is you speak truth to power, right? That your word is your bond, right? And that ultimately that we are each doing what is both best for us, but then best for the collective. And so that's all I'm really accepting in 2021, right? And blessings and checks, right? Because because I don't want to I don't become too hotep on this line, and y'all forget that I care about my check, my bottom line as well, right? Yeah. So what I'm looking for in 2021 is peace, blessings, and checks.
Yeah. You funny, Khalil.
Amen.
But I get amen to that. I would say this though, from my perch, because we all have a perch that we're on that actually we all are change agents. Yeah. And so during this whole year that passed, and hopefully it all comes to pass, diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? Real. So what does that really mean? What does that really mean? And I was watching, someone sent me a video, and they sent me this video. This guy was putting on his costume and everything, and he ended it by saying that if there's no equity or inclusion, diversity is nothing but a performance. And so, and I and that is the truth. You could say diversity, but if there's no equity and inclusion, diversity is nothing but a performance. And we want to make sure that everyone or people that our partners and people who are want to really lean in to help effectuate the change, that they're really effectuating the change. I want to thank my guests today, Khalil Nasserdeen, founder of the Ridgeland Group, and Alex Hill, the award-winning afternoon anchor and news reporter at WBGO 88.3 FM. This year, we really got a clarity at Lincoln Park. We stopped mission drifting, and we were able to right-size the ship. And we returned back to our roots of community activism through affordable housing, placemaking, creative placemaking through arts and cultural initiatives, addressing the food apartheid through the food desert, and also job training. We now realize we need to have all allies and stakeholders to move our agenda forward. Again, finding our voice, led by Black, Indigenous people of color.
And that brings to a close this episode of the Lincoln Park Sustainable Living Community Podcast, the business and art of creative placemaking in the historic Lincoln Park community in the city of Newark, New Jersey. This podcast was created by Anthony Smith and Kim J. Ford for the Lincoln Park Coast Cultural District nonprofit. Executive producer and host, Anthony Smith. Senior producer, writer, and director, Kim J. Ford. Production coordinator, Catherine Lennox Hooker. Voiceover announcer, Anthony Ross Wiggins. Thank you to Season 1 sponsors, Verizon, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, United Airlines, Valley National Bank, Provident Bank, and the City of Newark Creative Catalyst Fund. Special thanks to Susan Austin and Moselle Baker of Lincoln Park Coast Cultural District and the Board of Trustees. And the team at Brand Marketing Group LLC, official agency for Lincoln Park Coast Cultural District nonprofit. This podcast is proudly produced in the great city of Newark, New Jersey. Ross J. Baraka Bayer.